I'm sorry, Kelechi muttered, his voice low and filled with regret. I didn't mean to push you. But the damage had been done. And in that moment, something inside Tasha broke. The days that followed were tense, filled with awkward silences and strained conversations. They couldn't look at each other the same way anymore. The passion that had once been a fire between them now felt like a distant memory. Tasha avoided him when she could. Kelechi tried to apologize, but his words felt hollow, lacking the depth of understanding she needed. Tasha, baby, we need to talk, Kelechi said one evening after days of avoiding each other. She turned to face him, her eyes guarded. About what, Kelechi? This, he gestured between them. What happened? I crossed a line. His voice was soft, remorseful, but the frustration lingered beneath. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted you. And when you said no, I didn't know how to stop. Tasha's heart clenched. It was the first time he had admitted it out loud, and it shook her. But the fear she felt that day hadn't left her. Kelechi, why? How could you? We've always enjoyed ourselves anytime you wanted it. Spontaneously, in the least expected places, and as often as you wanted. Until these few weeks that I've been busy and stressed from work. Why would you even think of forcing yourself on me, your wife, especially in my office? Kelechi, why? She cried. I don't know if I can forget this, she whispered, her voice cracking. You don't get to control when I say no. Kelechi's face fell, regret clouding his features. I never wanted to hurt you, my love. I'm so sorry. I love you. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. Love isn't supposed to feel like this. Tasha's life has become a juggling act, balancing her high-powered career at one of Abuja's top firms with her increasingly strained relationship with her husband, Kelechi. She was a woman of action, always in motion, always striving for success. But lately, the weight of it all felt unbearable. She spent her days in boardrooms, her sharp mind dissecting legal arguments, making deals and climbing the corporate ladder. At just 32, she had already made a name for herself in a male-dominated field, and her firm often called on her expertise for the most high-profile cases. But work wasn't enough to keep her mind off the growing tension at home. Kelechi had been distant, and the incident in her office still haunted her thoughts. He had apologized, yes, but she is still hurting. The emotional gap between them had deepened, creating a rift that no amount of sweet words or expensive dinners could heal. Meanwhile, Kelechi was caught up in his tech startup, a rapidly growing company that kept him on the go. His charm and visionary mindset had landed him partnership with some of the most influential figures in the tech world, and he was often away attending meetings, flying out for conferences, or closing deals. But it was clear to both of them that the strain of their careers and their growing emotional distance was beginning to show. One evening, after a long day at the office, Tasha stood in front of her mirror, running a comb through her hair, as she prepared for another night of quiet solitude. Kelechi was still at work, handling a business lunch that had consumed his time for weeks. The doorbell rang. Surprised, Tasha opened it to find Kelechi standing there, his eyes tired but determined. I thought you could use some company, he said softly, holding a bottle of her favorite wine. Her heart softened at the gesture. She hadn't realized how much she had missed the quiet, simple moments they once shared. The spontaneous nights of laughter, the quiet dinners where words flowed freely, and their love felt like a safe haven. They sat together on the balcony of the apartment, the city lights twinkling below, the soft hum of the evening breeze adding to the calm. I miss us, Kelechi confessed, his voice low. I miss how we used to be effortless, spontaneous. Tasha looked at him, her gaze soft but wary. We are both so busy, Kelechi, and things hadn't been the same since what happened. I know. I will do whatever it takes to make things right, he said, taking her hand in his. Omalicham, you mean everything to me. It was the first time in weeks that she had seen a glimpse of the man she fell in love with, the one who had once known her better than anyone else, the one who had ignited her passion with just a touch. Despite their efforts to reconnect, the undercurrent of tension never fully faded. Tasha threw herself deeper into work, pouring her energy into the high-profile Lego cases that were stacking up on her desk. She couldn't help it. It was her escape. But Kelechi too was consumed by his work. The startup was taking off, attracting attention from investors and media alike. His days were spent in strategy meetings, pitching to potential partners, and dealing with the demand of his growing business. His nights, though, were reserved for trying to patch up things with his wife. One night, after a particularly taxing week, Kelechi invited her to a gala, an exclusive event thrown by one of his corporate partners. It was a chance for them to be seen together, to remind everyone that they were still the power couple they had always been. Tasha was hesitant. She wasn't sure she was ready for the pretense of it all. But when she saw Kelechi waiting for her in Etsusedo, his eyes dark with desire and affection, she couldn't resist. The night passed in a blur of champagne toast, forced smiles, and shallow conversations. Kelechi kept close to her, his hand resting on the small of her back, his fingers occasionally brushing her skin as though reminding her of the connection they once shared. The chemistry was still there, but something had shifted. It was different now, tainted by their past, the near-rape experience by her husband. Later in the quiet of the evening, as the guests slowly trickled out of the venue, Kelechi led her outside into the cool night air. "Babe, I can't stand this distance between us," he confessed, his voice rough. "You and me, together, I want it back." Tasha's heart ached at his words. She wanted to give him the comfort of her touch, the passion they had once shared, but the memories of that night in her office, the feeling of helplessness and fear still lingered in the back of her mind. "I don't know if I can go back to how it was. I was so scared, Kelechi," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Just talking about it right now gives me shivers. I'm scared." Kelechi's expression softened, and he cupped her face in his hands. "I will spend every day proving to you that I can respect your boundaries, that you are my equal, not just in love, but in everything. But you have to trust me again, please." She closed her eyes, the weight of his words sinking into her. She didn't know if she was ready, but she knew one thing for sure. If they were ever going to heal, they would need to face the issues together. Kelechi suggested the sick couples therapy. At first, Tasha was hesitant, skeptical even. "I'm not against us seeing a therapist, but how would talking to a stranger fix what happened between us?" she asked. "I don't know, but let's try this, babe. It has worked for so many couples, and I believe it will work for us too. Let's try this first," Kelechi said. The thought of losing her husband, of losing everything they had built, was too much for her to bear, so she agreed to give it a try. Their first therapy section was awkward. They sat in silence, avoiding eye contact, as the counselor gently probed them to speak about their issues. Tasha found herself opening up, sharing the fear and discomfort she had felt when Kelechi had crossed the line. Kelechi, on the other hand, admitted his frustration and insecurity, his desire to feel needed, to feel like he could protect and control every aspect of their relationship. Over the next few weeks, they continued their sessions, each person peeling back layers of hurt, misunderstandings, and vulnerability. They learned about consent in marriage, not just physical but emotional consent. They learned how to communicate their needs and respect each other's space. It wasn't easy. In fact, there were days when they questioned whether things would ever return to what they once had. Therapy sessions were a struggle at times, each one digging up emotions that neither of them were ready to face. Neither of them had ever been ready to talk about. But the breakthrough moments, however small, were enough to keep them going. It was during a particularly challenging session that Kelechi finally understood. They were sitting across from their therapist, Dr. Lara, who had been guiding them through their healing process. Tasha had just finished explaining how she felt trapped in her own vulnerability, how Kelechi's overwhelming desire sometimes made her feel like she had no say in their intimacy. Kelechi sat silently, hand clenched in his lap, guilt and regret washing over him. He had always prided himself on being assertive, on knowing exactly what he wanted. But now, he understood that his actions had been overbearing and that the very things that had once made him desirable, his intensity, his dominance, had turned into something suffocating. For the first time, he felt the weight of his mistakes, not just as a partner, but as a person. "I never wanted to make you feel like you had no choice, Tasha," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I wanted you, but I didn't realize how much I was crossing the line." Tasha's eyes softened as she looked at him, her heart still healing but beginning to thaw. "I know you love me, Kelechi, but love isn't just about taking, it's about giving, respecting each other's boundaries." Kelechi nodded, the words sinking deep. He reached for her hands, squeezing it gently. "I will spend every day proving to you that I can do that I can respect you not just as my wife, but as the incredible woman you are." And for the first time in a long while, Tasha felt a flicker of hope. It was small, fragile, but it was there. They also spoke about making out time from their busy schedule for each other. Rebuilding trust was a slow process. There were no quick fixes, no magical solutions. It took time, patience, and an open heart. But little by little, they began to rediscover the love that had drawn them to each other in the first place. Kelechi worked hard to change his behavior, checking in with her before any physical intimacy, always asking if she was comfortable. There were times when their old habits threatened to resurface, but they faced them together, speaking openly and honestly about what was okay and what wasn't. One weekend, after months of careful communication and effort, Kelechi took Tasha away for a short trip to the beach getaway to relax, reconnect, and focus solely on each other away from their work and other distractions. The soft sound of the waves crashing against the shore was a soothing backdrop as they walked hand in hand along the water. The cool ocean breeze tousled their hair, and for the first time in a long while, the weight of the world seemed to lift. Tasha turned to Kelechi, her heart light. "This is what we need, isn't it? A chance to breathe together." Kelechi smiled, his eyes soft as he gazed at her. "Yes, no distractions, no work, just us. I want to give you everything you need." As they stood by the water's edge, their fingers intertwined, Tasha leaned into him, letting herself be enveloped in the warmth of his embrace. There was no rush, no pressure, just the two of them, rediscovering the simple joy of being together. They spent the weekend talking, laughing, and loving. And as they made love that night, it was tender, every touch, every kiss, filled with care and understanding. There was no urgency, no force, just a quiet, profound connection that was slowly beginning to heal the wounds they had caused each other. The weeks following the beach trip were a revelation. Kelechi's commitment to respect her boundaries and rebuild the trust between them didn't stop with words. It was reflected in his actions. Their intimacy, though seamy and spontaneous, became a dance of mutual desire and respect. Tasha also found herself letting go of the fear that had once held her back. She learned to communicate her needs clearly, no longer afraid of hurting Kelechi's feelings. Their work lives, while still demanding, no longer felt like insurmountable obstacle. Tasha began to realize that she didn't have to sacrifice her career to have a fulfilling relationship. And Kelechi, seeing her strength, and independent, learned to support her in ways that made her feel valued, not just as a wife, but as her own person. One evening, as they sat on their balcony after a long day, Kelechi turned to her, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm so proud of how far we've come, babe. We've been through hell and back, but we are still here, together." Tasha smiled softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I never thought we would make it through that, my love. But here we are today, and I think it has made us stronger." Kelechi reached out to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a stray tear. "I love you, Tasha, and I will spend the rest of my life showing you that I can be the man you need." "I love you too, babe," Tasha said. As the city lights twinkled around them, they sat in silence, comfortable in each other's presence. The past wasn't something they could change, but the future was theirs to create together. Moving forward, Tasha and Kelechi's life wasn't without its own challenges. They had faced the darkest part of their relationship, confronting their fears and emerged stronger for it. They had learned the true meaning of trust, love, and consent in marriage. And as they moved forward, hand in hand, they knew that whatever the future held, they were ready to face it together. Please support our growing channel by subscribing, like, comment, and share. Love you!